leaders just, when they see something that needs to be changed, if they don't challenge it, they will slowly die because they're getting frustrated that it's not changing. You know, they either get frustrated at it and be bitter towards the system, or they'll have to change it, or they'll try something to change it. They might fail a couple times, but that's a leader, is stepping out before other people. Leaders have been given the assignment to take people places where they've never been. As leaders, we are asking men and women not only to follow us to places they have never been, we're asking men and women to follow us to places that we have never been as well. And sometimes that's terrifying, and that's why it takes courage to get outside your comfort zone, is because sometimes you're leading people into a place of darkness and you don't know where that is, but you know that you have to go. And you're going to take people with you. Unbridled fear is a result of missed opportunities. That's a big statement right there. Unbridled fear is basically if you don't act courageously in light of fear, you will miss opportunities. We'll talk more about missing opportunities as failure for a leader rather than failing at trying something. And it's just a difference in how we view failure. Courage is the willingness to move in a direction in spite of the emotions and thoughts that bind you to do otherwise. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage assumes fear. Leaders move into situations that bring us to fearful states. We kind of just live in it. We make it look easy, and people see leaders and they're like, they don't fear anything. And it's because we know we're afraid and we're willing to walk into that. And so it looks like we don't fear anything. The unwillingness to accept risk has swamped more leaders than anything I can think of. And that's Max Decree, and he speaks this and says, the number one thing that kills leaders, the number one thing that makes leaders fearful is the unwillingness to accept risk. You step out into a place where you're not sure if you're going to win or if you're going to lose, but you know that you have to step out. And we'll let many things kill us in that moment. Whether that's like our imagination bringing us to places where it's like unrealistic doubts, or other things, and we'll get to that a little later as well, but it's just a general statement of this is kind of one of the things that tears me apart, is the unwillingness to accept risk. If you don't take risks, you'll never lead because you're not sure you're going to fit, and therefore you won't lead anyone to it. Leaders view failure differently. Eventually leaders lust for progress. Eventually leaders lust for progress is overwhelming his reluctance to take risks. A better way to say that is failure to move things forward. Failure to move things forward is a type of failure most feared by leaders. So if you're not moving anything forward, you just get frustrated. That's how you know you're a leader. You see things and there's a status quo and you're like, man, I want more. But you don't move anything. That's what failure looks like. It's not changing things as a leader. And I think that's just a mindset change. And it's a question that you have to ask yourself really is what does failure look like to you? Is it trying something and then hoping that it doesn't fail? Or is it trying something in the hope that something changes? And if it doesn't change, you try again. Because you tried at least. You tried to have movement. Rather than living in the fact that you never tried at all. And you were just living in fear. That's why it kind of takes courage to do this. Being overly cautious leads to failure because caution can lead to missed opportunities. Being overly cautious leads to failure because caution can lead to missed opportunities. caution can be masked. People can hide behind it and being cautious, and really they're afraid. And that will lead them to missed opportunities. And that's missed opportunities not only in changing a system, that's missed opportunities in changing lives. Some of us will be cautious, but really we're afraid to bring up something in someone else's life. And we miss an opportunity to have a life-changing conversation with them. Not us changing their lives, but us having that conversation and allowing God to move through us. Whenever there is fear, wherever there is fear, there is great opportunity. So this is something that leaders see. Is when there's fear, there's great opportunity. This is a big mind shift for most of us, and it takes us a while to get there. But where there's fear, there's typically great opportunity. In most cases, the opportunity takes them by surprise. Just like fear seizes us sometimes, that's when opportunity tends to happen as well. When we're seized by something, most people are seized by it, we can act first out of it. See, people can recognize it, but they'll gripe inside, or they'll whisper it in small crowds. But leaders are the ones who say it publicly, and then change it. Leaders understand the unique role of confidence and caution. Therefore, leaders often excuse their fear, fearful people often excuse their fear for caution. Not leaders. Fearful people often excuse their fear for caution. This is back to the concept of fear can be disguised as caution. And it's good to be careful, but not always good to be cautious. We're going to talk about distinctions of that real quick. And caution is our. It talks about David and Goliath. As David goes out, he knows the risk that's at hand, and he's going to deliver food to his brothers, and he comes to this place where he's just delivering food, but he comes across this call where everyone sees with fear, and he sees an opportunity. And he doesn't go into it willy-nilly. He goes into it carefully, knowing the risk of everything that's on him. See, if he lost this battle, the whole nation of Israel would have been lost as well. He was very careful, and he took what he knew that he could take, that he would do best with. That's him going in carefully, saying, I know what's going to be best for this battle for me. He didn't take Saul's armor, so they would just weigh him down. He didn't take any armor at all. He just took a slingshot and a rock, and that's what was going to be best for him. He was careful going into the situation, so he wasn't but he sees the moment, he sees the fear that everyone else was just staring at him. And that changed, that made a leader step out from David. Just kind of something to look inside yourself with. Which one of these five best describe you? And it says, careful is cerebral, so thought, a lot of thought, where fearful is emotional. Careful is fueled by information, fearful is fueled by imagination. Careful calculates risk. Fearful avoids risk. Careful wants to achieve success. Fearful wants to avoid failure. Careful is concerned about progress. Fearful is concerned about protection. It's just a small mindset change. Allowing yourself to be informed about what's around you, allowing yourself to not be overtaken by your emotions, but stepping out through those emotions. Allowing yourself to evaluate what's going around you, to recognize risk and not avoid it, but step into it. It's focused on what could happen that could be good, and that needs to happen. It's not focused on, I hope this doesn't work, or this could fail. It's focused on success, it's focused on progress. It's focused on moving forward. It's not focused on just protecting the people, but it's I need to move forward past a point, and everyone needs to do it. And so I'm going to step out so that people can follow me into it. Comes back to the story of David when he actually steps out, and people are able to follow into it. They're able to follow the nation, and the momentum changes. See, an army that had no hope, that was just watching Goliath come out day after day, seized with fear. And the army, the Philistines, Goliath's army, who was just incredibly confident, changed in an instant when one person stepped out and ended up slaying their champion. And the army that was incredibly confident became incredibly fearful. And the army that was incredibly fearful became incredibly confident because of one man. We have the same effect on people. We have the same potential to affect people like that. Leaders instill courage in the hearts of those who follow. Going before makes us a leader worth following. Killing Goliath did not make David a leader, but it marked him as one. David was announced a leader before that point, but that moment marked him as one. He wasn't talked about before that time. He was just a little shepherd boy in a rich family and a forgotten child who didn't go to war, but was just a messenger. But in that moment, after that, people all over his country were singing his praises. And they had confidence in the little shepherd boy. And the king's son made a pact with the little shepherd boy to support him. One moment. What do you believe is impossible to do? What do you believe is impossible to do what do I believe is impossible to do in my field? But if I could do it, it would fundamentally change what I do. So then I have a question to ask yourself: what do you believe is impossible to do where you're at? But if you could do it, how would it change how you're living? Maybe just need to write that down, and if you want, give me a couple seconds to think about that. Like, what is impossible for you to do, or what looks impossible? But if you could do it, if it's something that looks good that you need to change, or something that you feel like this just needs to change, how would that change the way you live now? Give you guys just a second to think about that. While you're thinking about this, these are just three statements. Don't be intimidated by the numbers. Don't be intimidated by how much it's going to cost. Don't be afraid to embrace the problem that cannot be afforded to solve. What always precedes before the how? What needs to change always precedes before the how. Once you have a vision of what can change, then you can start working on how to change it. Don't think about the how before you think about the what. Because the how will fear you away from everything that you want to change. Three expressions of this is the courage to say no. Mike Napa, Napa Know-How, CEO of Napa Know-How, he said, opportunity does not equal obligation. Basically what he's saying there is